all set up. So next up is Logical Buildings. Logical Buildings is a sustainability and smart building software company that focuses on multifamily. I'm excited to introduce David Klatt, COO of Logical Buildings, as our next presenter. David is the real deal. He was named one of the 40 under 40 in energy technology. So thank you, David.
Thanks so much, and I appreciate everyone's time. Hope everyone's having a great day. So we're Logical Buildings. We are a one-stop shop software ecosystem for smart building and energy management, specifically as it relates to the multifamily sector. My goal for today is to take everyone through a couple market slides, some trends that we see happening in the market. Want to talk about what we do, obviously, and hopefully, if I have time, just want to give everyone a flavor of what the software ecosystem looks like for our users. Okay. So just to talk high level about the energy market in multifamily, we believe that multifamily buildings are the largest and most underserved energy consumers in the country, actually. And about 25% of the US population lives in multifamily buildings, whether it's in condos or apartments. And 55% of energy in urban markets, like New York City is a great example, of 55% of energy in urban markets flows through multifamily buildings. So they're massive energy users. They actually use 4 times as much energy than offices do. And one thing that people generally don't understand or is not very transparent is that within a multifamily building, about half of the energy cost is actually borne by the owner and operators of that building. And the other half is borne by the residents. So for the owner operator, we're talking about amenity spaces, hallway, lighting, cooling, elevators, pumps, motors. All of that core building system uses about half of the building's energy. So it's actually, putting all those numbers together, the energy expense borne by owner operators of multifamily is the biggest hidden energy expense in urban markets. But right now, it's very underserved, and only about 3% of smart building energy management spend is invested in this large market. So I want to talk about a couple of recent energy and technology megatrends that impact multifamily that we've really latched our technology and service onto. So the first one, work from home. You probably suspect this, but there's been a massive redistribution of how energy is used. And on average, commercial office buildings in the last 6 months are using about 25 to 30% less energy across the board. And all of that energy is popping up in the residential sector. So, and a lot of that is multifamily buildings. A lot of that is apartments and single family homes. So there's been this massive redistribution of energy cost away from the office companies onto residents. And we see it in the energy data. We see the work from home trend taking place, where single family homes and individual apartments are using about 10 to 15% more energy in the last 6 months. CO2, carbon emissions. Every company has to have a carbon emission strategy, and specifically backed up by a lot of new legislation. And in a lot of jurisdictions like New York, which just passed something called the Climate Mobilization Act in 2019, buildings are actually going to start to be penalized and fined for excess carbon emissions starting in 2024. But even before that, starting later this year, actually, buildings are going to have to post their energy letter grade on the outside of their buildings, kind of like a restaurant score. And that goes A through D. And there's a lot of luxury buildings that are going to have C's and D's posted outside the building. IoT, we all know what that means. And smart thermostats and sensors are becoming cheaper, more ubiquitous, which helps companies that are technology integrators like us quickly deploy into building controls. And this is probably one that most people don't spend a lot or any time thinking about. AMI, that stands for Advanced Metering Infrastructure. There's a once in 40-year massive infrastructure upgrade happening in many utility jurisdictions across the country, where utilities are upgrading legacy energy meters to smart meters, and we leverage all this newfound energy data that's being created in buildings on the electric side and on the gas side. It's creating literally trillions of new energy data points that never existed before that could all be turned into value. So Logical Buildings was actually founded inside of Roseline Property Company, which is a multifamily owner-operator in the US. And everything that we've built is specifically catered to the multifamily audience. And traditionally, like one of the challenges in multifamily is that there's generally a lack of data. A lot of the buildings that we're in don't have a building automation system or building management system. They don't have a sophisticated on-site engineering team running the building. And the idea of energy management is looking at the bill 15 days after it comes. And so we change all that for buildings. And we provide this one energy and smart building ecosystem that caters to all of the stakeholders and components for multifamily energy and sustainability management. These are the actual pieces of value that we create for all of our clients. So number one, we're a partner with utilities. All of our clients' buildings, they earn energy revenue. And so buildings can earn revenue from utilities in different jurisdictions for making small changes to how they use energy. So we're actually writing checks to all of our clients. We're a revenue generating company for our clients. And we help reduce energy and water costs. And in general, these two strategies, they're driven by empowering building staff with real-time and predictive analytics as it relates to their energy data and their building systems, and training them on how to run the buildings with a data-driven approach. We enhance building health and reduce carbon emissions. So like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our buildings are large energy consumers, but they don't have a building automation system that can be plugged into. And sometimes to actually build or install the building automation system, that could be a $500,000 project or a $250,000 project. But oftentimes you can generate 90% of the value by deploying things like smart thermostats or other low-cost IoT that create kind of like a BMS light that can control the building much better. And we have some really great multi-site control tools for portfolio managers, and also hit the major fault detection points of the major energy systems in multifamily buildings. And then finally, all these four values are built for individual buildings. The ecosystem extends and provides products for portfolio managers and the C-suite, where they can manage their energy cost risk by procuring fixed price energy contracts, including acquiring renewable energy. And there's also a whole portfolio analytics and benchmarking tool to track performance and carbon emissions for large portfolios. So what we like to say is that we enable large national multifamily companies to control and optimize their buildings down from an individual thermostat, and that rolls up to a national energy risk and sustainability strategy for our clients. And we've been doing this for about 6 years, and these are the results. So our clients on average have a 15% reduction in utilities costs, and that's an average number. So some actually get up to 30%, some are at 5 to 10%, but on average, we're creating really large outsized reductions in utility costs. 10% average reduction in energy use and carbon emissions. A lot of that is through optimizing building systems and smart thermostats. And then zero energy supply cost risk. So the vast majority of our clients are going out and procuring in a very intelligent way, executing fixed price energy and gas contracts to eliminate their energy market exposure. And these are the folks who we do it for. And all of these companies have proven results with us. We have now over 50 industry leading clients. On average, we deliver about a 0.5 year payback, so about half a year. And every year we're creating value for these clients. So we're creating annual accretive cash flow at a much higher multiple for what the platform as a service costs are. And we're playing a major role for a lot of these companies in how they think about their sustainability strategy, all of the tools that they report on in their corporate sustainability reports, industry awards, we're playing a major role in. So that is a very quick, in a nutshell, overview of the value that we deliver. I want to spend just 5 quick minutes taking everyone in to the platform itself, just to see visually what it looks like, how a couple different types of companies use the platform, and then I'll open up for questions. So this is the web platform. We're also we're really mobile first. So we have a iOS and Android app that that on-site staff generally uses, and there's a whole ecosystem of tools here that I talked about. We don't need to go into each one. I just wanted to give everyone a flavor of what the platform does. So this is a portfolio analytics tool for a particular company, where you can come in here and all of the energy data across the portfolio is here. Every building has a baseline, and we built a model for every building with predictive analytics for how we expect the building will use energy based on how hot or how cold it is. And we're very rigorous in terms of using, we use the International Protocol for Measurement and Verification as it relates to energy performance. And then on a go-forward basis, every single month on a portfolio level, managers can come in and they could measure how all the buildings are performing. How much energy all the buildings are using per square foot. Compare and contrast their buildings, how they're performing versus their baseline. So which buildings are trending upward in terms of energy usage, which buildings are trending downward in terms of energy usage. We're warehousing a ton of other information about the buildings, all of their energy benchmarking, their Energy Star scores, their efficiency letter grades, all of their account numbers. So really powerful portfolio analytics for managers and C-suite. If I dive into an individual building for a second, just to show a couple of the tools that folks love to use. This is a multifamily building in New York City, and this is a electricity usage heat map that actually shows the building staff how much electricity the building is using every hour, and they could of course change the time here. Oops, let's refresh this. And the way this heat map works is that on the left y-axis, these are days of the month. Along the x-axis are hours of the day. Along the right y-axis is the average outdoor temperature. And then each one of these boxes is how much electricity the building uses in each hour. So these are peak commercial times. This building participates in demand response. We are a demand response aggregator as one of the things that we do, which basically means that we have a contract with the utility where when we're called upon, we guarantee that we have buildings that can reduce energy usage at specific times, and the utility writes us a check to do that. It performs a really critical sustainability objective for the utility. And so this is a building that has smart thermostats, and for a couple of hours in 1 week in August, they are pre-cooling their hallways by a couple degrees, and then they're raising their hallway thermostats by 4 degrees, and they're creating the compressors in the rooftop units shut off for a couple of hours. The building's electricity usage drops, and this building actually made $30,000 of revenue in 1 week in just some really simple controls and predictive analytics with their rooftop units and smart thermostats. The last piece I just wanted to show quickly is this is a smallish client, but this is this is a multi-site thermostat control dashboard, and we're integrated into smart thermostats. Could be in amenity areas, could be apartment units, but a portfolio manager or a regional engineer could come in here and they could see each one of these thermostats, whether they're heating or cooling, how hot or how cold the space is, color coded by temperature, and each one of these can be clicked open, controlled. They could also set min-max thresholds. So even if someone goes up to the face of the thermostat in the gym, for example, they can't make it colder than 68 degrees, or however the portfolio manager wants to set it. So there's a lot more features to the platform, but I wanted to just give everyone a sense of how dexterous it is in extracting real-time energy data, real-time building systems and controls data, how that rolls up into energy value, energy revenue, and how portfolios and C-suite are using the tools to measure entire national portfolio performances across the board.
Thanks, David. Some questions came in. I'll start off with, are your customers only multifamily?
That is a great question. So the answer is no. We've in the last year or so, we've really expanded outside of multifamily, and honestly, it's been very much driven by our multifamily clients. So we had multifamily owner operators who also own office, and they said to us, hey, can we love your approach? Can we deploy this in our office buildings? And we said, sure. And what I think has been really impactful is in developing these software solutions for multifamily, which are generally buildings that are a little bit smaller than your large commercial office buildings and are more data poor. It's forced us to be really innovative in terms of how we create energy value and how we deploy in terms of a very low and fast technology deployment. So on the energy value side, if anyone's ever looked at an energy bill for a building, there's 20 line items. And we chip away at every single one of those line items. And they're not all just about how much you use. A lot of them are about, when you use it. And so, we think that we create more energy value per square foot with our unique approach than other companies. And on the technology deployment side, one thing that we feel very strongly about that I think is a differentiator is that we view the utility as our best friend and as our partner, whereas sometimes people view the utility as burdensome. But we've taken us multiple years to build secure software integrations into utility infrastructure, which allows us to deploy really quickly. And sometimes we actually often we deploy our software in buildings without ever installing a single device on site. And that's actually been great during during COVID, especially the beginning of COVID. We're now back on site, but we're able to create value, create remote energy monitoring, and train on-site staff virtually, and doing 100% remote deployments of our products. So another question that came in is, do you think that the climate crisis will get more landlords to focus on their carbon footprint? What else will it take to drive adoption to platforms like logical buildings incentives? I think what's interesting is it's a great question. And oftentimes what I tell people is that one of our biggest competitors is the bandwidth of decision makers. And so the energy space is complicated. There's no doubt about that. And we do our best to make energy management as simple as possible. But very often, a multifamily company or even a commercial office company, they'll have someone in operations whose night job is energy, and they're spending 10% of their time on energy. And so that person doesn't have the bandwidth to even assess multiple companies, figure out what everyone's doing, and then support multiple solutions providers in their portfolio. But what I see happening is the climate crisis. Most cities are rolling out new legislation as it relates to energy usage and management. And for us, I think the biggest, the biggest impact that I see from that is a bandwidth increase. And so companies are hiring a new full-time employee just to focus on energy. Or they're taking that person who traditionally was in operations and saying, hey, now 50% of your time is putting out fires, and 50% of your time is figuring out our carbon strategy. So I think the biggest thing that it's done is that it's totally changed the bandwidth of how our clients think about energy and how much time they're spending on assessing and implementing strategies in energy efficiency. Another question, you mentioned that your software creates building revenue. Could you expand on that? Sure. So one of the things that we do is we have what we call the energy management value stack. And it's a list of 10 ways in which we create value, energy value for our clients. One layer of that value stack is something called demand response, where in the world of energy, utilities care a lot about peak usage. So what that means is, think about when it's 100 degrees outside and it's 4 p.m. and everyone's blasting their AC. That peak electricity usage across grids creates massive issues for utilities. And right now, just given the environment, utilities cannot build new power plants. There's no new fossil fuels coming into the picture. And so the only thing that utilities can do to manage that peak usage and prevent brownouts is they will pay energy users to use less energy at specific times. And so what we do as a company, we are what's called the demand response aggregator. We have hundreds and actually thousands of buildings who are on the platform. And by training building staff to change their energy usage patterns in unison at the same time, we create a incredibly valuable resource for the energy grid and for utilities called a virtual power plant, and utilities pay us to do that, and then we pass that revenue through to our clients, so they actually earn revenue. We have some buildings where we delivered $100,000 checks to for their participation in that market. Another question, do you manage the implementation of energy measures or just offer recommendations? We do manage some more CapEx heavy energy efficiency projects. Generally, we consider ourselves much more of a energy data, building systems data layer. 99% of our implementations are less than $15,000. So it's really light data extraction equipment. We don't make any hardware. We're an integrator. We're a software integrator into utility meters and other types of IoT and building automation system platforms. We generally, if a specific client is interested in deeper energy measures and the data that we're collecting, the data that we're collecting often dictates what would those most effective energy measures be. And so, we do have an amazing multidisciplinary team of mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, building system specialists, and we do recommend and implement some more CapEx heavy projects like LED, solar, cogen, that kind of stuff. But 99% of our work is software training and energy efficiency through data creation and recommendations, either automated or suggestions to building staff. How does LB make money? We are a platform as a service, and it's generally low fixed monthly fees per building based on the size and complexity of the building.